IndieCapitol. I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Kelley Slagle of CaveGirl Productions. Welcome.
Hi.
So, Broken Continent just premiered.
Yep.
And first question I want to ask you about that is, what made you get involved with a production with this level of costume, this level of weapons, this level of makeup?
Well, Frances Abbey, the director and writer, approached me with the script in December of 2011, I think it was. And he said, I've got this great character for you to play. Or I have two characters, and I think you'd be great as either one of them. So why don't you read the script and tell me which one you'd rather play? And I read it, and I said, well, one's sarcastic and a badass, and the other one's evil and a badass. And I said, why don't you make them twins? And so he did. He rewrote the script, made them twins, and as soon as he did that, as soon as he told me he rewrote the script and actually did that, I said, I want to produce. Because I was all over the script and all over the concept. I love fantasy, I love sci-fi. It's just so much more interesting than your average, everyday drama or comedy. It's so much freedom to express yourself. So I had to have my hands in it.
Well, what are some of the things that went on as far as you had to create an entire world with a history, and how did that go?
Well, Frances did a great job in the writing, so a lot of things were provided in the writing for us to go from. But when you're doing medieval fantasy, there's certain conventions, and so you need guys in armor, you need peasants in peasant-like clothing. So we had some directions to go. We knew we wanted to keep things simple and just suggestive of a generic medieval period. So it could be in any place, any time that it could take place. So that's what we did.
And this is way more ambitious than your usual indie production. So how do you manage something of this scope?
With help, with a lot of help. The production's three of us that are doing the main producing: Bjorn Munson, Frances Abbey, and myself. And so there's no way one of us could have done the entire thing. That's why Frances brought in Bjorn and I, because he knew he couldn't handle it himself. So while Frances was the creative head, I was the trying to find everything head, and Bjorn was the paperwork and administrative head. And so the three of us came together, and it was, a great meeting of the minds. We all used our own strengths to make it happen.
Edwin the Wicked's army is upon us.
What business do you have in the Iron Leaf?
We seek the protection of the women of the wood.
Send word to our sisters. Prepare for battle.
We must act now!
The world that you guys have created is very elaborate, so you basically have a lot of directions that you can go in. What's your long-term plan for this? Because this could go anywhere.
Right, and that's kind of what our long-term plan is. We want it to go anywhere we can. There's a lot of things in the works. Our joke amongst the three of us is we would like to get Sharktopus money, which means get it in front of the Sci-Fi Channel, who tends to make interesting projects that are questionable, but they give them lots of money to make it. And we would love to be one of those people that gets a lot of their money. But I mean, besides that, we're looking at online content distributors, anything from the top of the rung Netflix to just pure online distribution. We're taking it around to conventions, sci-fi fantasy conventions, to try to build a fan base. We're looking into expanding it through novelization of the actual story. Graphic novels, taking it in as many media directions as we can to build that fan base and get people interested so we can make more episodes. And that's kind of the idea. Right now, it's all about gaining funding to make more.
With Frances having written it, would you say that the actual, when we got the costumes, when we got the makeup, when we got the wardrobe together, did it fulfill, or did you have to kind of cut corners and say, well, this is just not possible to do?
Sure, yeah. On a budget of approximately, after the cut, the Kickstarter took $42,000, you've got to cut a lot of corners, especially if you're trying to pay people. So I became familiar with every thrift store in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area to do the bulk of our peasant costumes, for example. We started with thrift store items and then modified them or beat them up with sticks, literally, and makeup to make them look like peasant clothing. So we got those as cheap as possible. We had a costumer actually make a lot of things from scratch, but we got the fabric as cheap as possible, with discount coupons and things like that. Any chance we had to save money without sacrificing a lot of quality, we went with it. We rented the armor, for example. We had someone make some armor. We borrowed armor. We had a lot of favors called in, to make it as high quality as possible, but not with that big check.
Well, one thing I want to follow up on that you touched on is that you pay the actors. And unfortunately, that's kind of a rarity in the DC film community. So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, we decided from the get-go that we were going to try to make it a union project. I'm actually a SAG union actor now. I've only been so for about 6 months. But we, in the casting process, decided we wanted to open up that possibility to union actors because we wanted to have the greatest pool to choose from when we brought people in. So we looked up the SAG New Media contract process. And Bjorn handled a lot of that. But we were able to fulfill that contract and have the option of bringing in those union actors, and you have to pay them something. I mean, we didn't pay people much, but we at least paid them something to be there, and that was our goal, was to try to reach that level of professionalism and just as actors ourselves. Frances, Bjorn, and I have all been actors. We know having gas money would be great. Having some money for some food at the end of the day would be all we would ask. And it would be nice to at least have that and at least be able to offer people that. So that's why we went with the union project.
And I'm not terribly familiar with the ins and outs of a SAG project, so I'm just going to ask you. So once you've decided to have a SAG film, can non-SAG actors also work on that film? Absolutely.
And so, like I said, it didn't limit us to just union actors. We were able to pull in, we had non-union actors as well, but we didn't want to exclude the union actors from our pool. So, yeah, the non-union actors can work on it. And I'm not sure with the new media contract if they earn points for what they did with us, but they're certainly allowed to be on the same project.
And you just recently chose to become a SAG member. There's kind of a lot of controversy in DC because people say, well, if you want to work in New York, you have to be SAG, but if you want to work in DC, you're better off not to.
Right.
Where do you fall on that? Do you have a position on what's better?
I finally did it for me only because I had been acting in the area for about 12 years, and I wanted the option of being in those union projects. Because there's a lot more coming around in the DC area now. We've got House of Cards here now, we've got Veep. We had The Wire for a long time in Baltimore that I was lucky to be on, and things like that. And so they're coming more. People are seeing DC more as a town they can come to make those projects. So I wanted to make myself available for those when I can. I mean, nowadays I'm more on the production side, but I got to tell you, the benefits of being a union actor are immense compared to being a non-union one. And so I felt it was worth the sacrifice.
And as a producer, what are the benefits as a producer to using union actors?
Definitely not the paperwork. The paperwork is a mountain to use union actors, so you've got to really want them. But again, it's just you get to have a greater variety. You get to have actors who are really passionate about what they do. They tend to be the people who are in union. Not that non-union aren't, but they just have to be by nature if they're a union actor. And so you have more talent to work with, and that's great.
What do you say would be the best route for like a rookie indie filmmaker to kind of learn their craft? Would you say try and get on Veep as a grip, or
Oh,
what
sure.
would you say?
Even as an actor, I mean, you can even get extra work as an actor and sit back and observe the entire production process. That's what I did. I did really bad unpaid, or not unpaid, but very low paid non-union extra work for some big Hollywood productions and just watch the inner workings of it. And that's the biggest lesson of all. If you can get work as a PA, great. I mean, that's learning on the set is the way to do it. But I went a different route because I was an actor for so long and then had been observing all the production people and said, you know, I want to get my hands on that. And so that's kind of the route I took.
What would you say has been, I don't know, the most fun part of this whole process?
I think I have all these thoughts going into my head from when I was ordering all the shoes on eBay, where my living room was full of 60 people's pairs of shoes. And the mailman thought I had some kind of fetish or something from all of these arriving at my doorstep. But I joke about it, but I swear to God, looking around at all that costuming in my living room was one of those moments where it's like, wow, I'm making something real. You know, it was finding all the bits and putting them together that was the fun part, because you're making this entire world from scratch. And it was that whole process of gathering all the elements together that I found the most fun.
Any cautionary tales you have for anybody that might undertake a project like that? Lessons learned?
Yep. Get contracts. And actually, that's the biggest thing. You know, they're there to protect you and to protect the people you work with. And so make sure that you can try to find some good legal help. I was lucky because my husband is actually a lawyer, so he was our legal advisor on Broken Continent. But getting a good legal help will save you so much trouble in the long run. It will just make everything go smoother. Work with people you know and trust, definitely, and try to have fun with it and try not to sweat the small things. It'll all come together.
Where can we check out Broken Continent and some of your other projects?
Broken Continent is at www.brokencontinent.com or www.getbroken.tv. Both go to the same place. Any future news will be put up there, as well as our Facebook, if you look up the Broken Continent on Facebook or Broken Continent on Twitter.
And if we are fans of CaveGirl Productions,
Oh,
where
of course, yes.
can we check that out?
CaveGirl Productions is at cavegirl.com.
All right, thank you so much, Kelley. It was great
Thank
to have you. For IndieCapitol, I'm Pamela Nash, and this is Kelley Slagle of CaveGirl Productions.